QB carousel, and we're going to pick out 5 different quarterbacks that possibly, plausibly, probably not, could be playing for different teams next season. We're going to project where we think they're going to play and why. Let's start it off with the big man, Carson Wentz. Eagles just hired Nick Sirianni. It feels like hiring Doug Peterson all over again. Blake, where do you think Carson Wentz is playing his football next year?
I have 2 teams in mind. Neither are the Eagles. So my first one is kind of like my dark horse, and that's the Broncos. So they're in a position right now with Locke where he hasn't really shown to be all that great. They have the makings of a pretty good defense. They have the offensive talent, which we talked about earlier. You know, John Elway loves that tall quarterback, pretty strong, physical tools. He's trying to redraft. He's trying to find the guy who resembles himself. That's my dark horse that, like, I think is kind of under the radar. And then the more obvious one that a lot of people have pointed to is the Colts, and that's that reunion with Frank Reich. He played his best ball with him, and once he left, he kind of trended downhill, and the roster definitely got worse, right? But I'm thinking they need a quarterback. Brissett's not the move. I mean, he can come in for QB sneaks if they don't want Wentz to get hurt, because that's what he pretty much did last year. But they have the roster and they have the cap space for him. And that's my main thing with them is they have tons of cap, and they actually are one of the teams that could afford to – I don't know how his cap space moves and how that all breaks down, but they can take the blunt of his cap hit. So those are my 2 teams.
Grant?
I'm sold on Indy. Indy makes perfect sense. The coach coached them before. They have cap space. The thing you got to know about Carson Wentz is he's really expensive. He in Philly, his cap number this year is 34.6, and then his prorated bonus is only 9.2. So any team that gets him is paying him $25 million. That's a lot of money for a guy who got benched. But Indy can pull it off. They know him. They can afford him. Indy makes sense. I don't know if Denver can do it. I don't know if Denver has the cap space, but
okay. I'm gonna say Philly, and I'm gonna say Philly because I think they hired Nick Sirianni basically as an attempt to try and make it work with Carson Wentz, and I think the primary reason why they're trying to make it work with Carson Wentz is because I think they have a $60 million dead cap if they get rid of Carson Wentz this season.
No, what I wanted to tell you is, and I've been talking about this with Noah Johnston today, Coach Johnson, is the post-June 1 trade. If you wait until post-June 1 and trade picks in 2022 draft, his dead cap is 9.2. So it's doable, but you just got to do it after the draft.
Right. Yeah. Right. It would have to be the post-June 1st because pre-June 1st is impossible because they have no cap room. They have no assets. They can't move Carson Wentz. And I'm actually going to tie this. This situation kind of reminds me of the 49ers' last attempt to salvage it with Colin Kaepernick when they had Blaine Gabbert. I mean, Blaine Gabbert's way worse than Jalen Hurts, and Colin Kaepernick, I think at that point is actually closer to Carson Wentz, what he showed last year, than people would like to admit. But I think it reminds me of that a little bit, where Jim Tomsula, I think, and them were ready to kind of move forward with Blaine Gabbert, and Colin Kaepernick was extremely expensive and his body was a little beaten up. And there was the whole thing of them hiring Chip Kelly and trying to salvage his career. So I think there's a little bit of similarities there, and there's a little parallel. Ultimately, I think when you hire Nick Sirianni and stuff and don't even hire an Eric Bieniemy, who, I mean, some say he doesn't interview well. I don't know. I listen to his press conferences. He sounds every bit as impressive as any other coach.
It's about his history.
Right. But then Vance Joseph and Matt Patricia also had ugly incidents in their history.
They did, and they should. And in retrospect,
right?
Matt
so,
Patricia,
So, and they hired Nick Sirianni. It feels like an all-in move to save Carson Wentz, and of course, whoever Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman hire, the media will always praise them as the next brilliant X and
also
XYZ
factory.
I don't think his contract is movable, honestly. Even though Frank Reich coached, I don't think anyone wants that contract because at $25 million, it's way too much. It's way too high. Too high.
Chris Ballard to me always feels like the guy that wants to be the winner in the trade. And I don't know if you're the winner if you can be the winner when you're trading assets and for that much money with Carson Wentz, it might be a 50-50 deal.
He's 13.8% of the cap at 25 million. It's just no. The guy couldn't even. No. I think
agreed.
He might be stuck in Philly. Yeah, he might be stuck in Philly in that contract. All right, let's move on to the next one.